America, Europe, Asia, and all the way down here is Australia. Alone, isolated. Ever wonder why? Why we're down here?
Well, we were a penal colony.
Well, that's the cover story, yeah, but historically, where have they always sent the loonies? As far away as possible. You can't get any further away than Australia. We weren't a penal colony, we was a lunatic asylum. Our ancestors were loonies, and this is the result.
I've been thinking about mental for a very long time. In fact, I talked about the idea of mental to Toni Collette on the set of Muriel's Wedding, so that's how long I've been thinking about this project. But I was never able to crack the script because, like Muriel's Wedding, mental is based on events from my past. So it would look too much like Muriel's Wedding if I just told the story straight. Also, if you tell any actual story that's happened to you straight, it's very boring. It's never as interesting to other people as it is to you.
Refreshing premium cold beer, Dad. Excuse me.
Your mum is on holiday in Wollongong, and she's having a wonderful time. If anybody asks, that's the story. You got it?
I think people will, they will be expecting a bit of a sequel to Muriel's Wedding because it is PJ, but this isn't. I mean, I suppose there's some themes that are very reminiscent of Muriel's, but I think it goes a little bit deeper, and it obviously goes off onto a different level. We're talking about a different family entirely, and of course you've got Toni Collette playing a completely different character to what she played in Muriel's. Yeah, there will be some comparisons, but
I didn't even think about it, to be honest. Mainly because I have an empty head.
They should compare the two because, you know, as a filmmaker, they're from the same filmmaker. They're both from you know, my life experience, and they both starred Toni Collette. However, you know, Mental shares DNA with Muriel. That's what I say. They're sisters. You know, Muriel and her mental sister. So I think that, you know, the comparisons are quite apt and should be made. I'm going to keep going back to Muriel's Wedding because the two films, you know, as I said, share DNA. Shirley is very similar to the character that Jeannie Dryden played in Muriel's Wedding, Betty. And when I was promoting Muriel's Wedding, the character that people most responded in very heartfelt ways was the mother character, which I didn't expect. And people from all over the world would go, "That was my mother." You know, sometimes in foreign languages they translate, you know, and it would come out as "that was my mother," and it really touched them. So I thought with Shirley, what would happen if that universal character, you know, a character based on my mother, had a happy ending? What if I gave her a happy ending? What if I let her win? And I followed that.
And playback.
Every day of your life, for as long as you live. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half.
I just had to throw myself into it 100%. It was the same with gaining the weight, with the singing, with everything. I just had to go, I had to trust him implicitly. It's his script, I loved his script, so whatever he asked me to do, I do it. And the thing is that everyone, all of the cast, we would do things 20 takes, 30 takes, because he would say, and he said it to me at the beginning, he said, "I'll challenge you, and you might think you have it, and I'll make you do it again and again and again," because that's just, you know, and for me it was just not only a challenge, but it was really thrilling, because I went to places that I haven't been to before as an actor, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was exhausted, but I loved it.
Yeah, no, I found it quite difficult at moments because, you know, I come from the school of underacting, and so I had splinters in my teeth from chewing the furniture, and I already thought that, you know, I was way over the top, and PJ would be like, "No, make it bigger," and I'd be like, "I can't get any bigger than this. I don't even know how to do it." But as Rebecca said, you know, we would just keep doing it, and I finally figured out PJ's tactic. He just exhausts you until you just give it up and do it. And the difficulty with playing, you know, comedy at that level is when you go that big, it still has to be truthful. It just can't be big. It has to have a through line of truth in it. And he's great at making sure that the emotional connection is still there, no matter how big it is, which reminded me of something that, you know, an old acting coach of mine said. It doesn't matter how huge you go, as long as it's real, you're fine.
Yeah.
We've just been reading about you, Manda, haven't we, girls? Right here in me book. What book's that? Oh, it's kind of like the Bible, except more about Australia than Evan. These are, page 369. Can you read that?
Sadistic personality disorder.
No, not that bit. The underlined bit. You think these jam and cream donuts are so fucking great? You eat them! I think young Taylor's a jam and cream donut, girl. What do you think? A bit of career advice, psychos. The customer is always right. If the moose don't want jam and cream donuts, they don't get jam and cream donuts.
Shaz was based on a real person. The story, you know, basically the story of the film, the starting point of the film is what happened in my life. You know, my mother, I arrived home from school one day when I was 12 years old to find that my mother, our mother, I was one of 7, was gone. And my dad, who was running for re-election at the time, said the official story was that she was on holidays because, as he said later, no one votes for a bloke with a mental wife. She'd actually had a nervous breakdown. And Dad was always strapped for money. So, you know, he did what any bloke who's strapped for money does. He stopped for a hitchhiker. He trusted her because she had a dog. So we returned home from school one day to find this woman with leather boots on, a knife sticking out of the boot, her snarling dog beside her, rolling a cigarette. She just looked around and she said, "Bit of a mess in here, isn't it?" And that was the real Shaz, my introduction to the real Shaz, and she proceeded to sort us out. But she was also completely crazy. I mean, certifiable. I found out later that she'd actually, you know, escaped several times from a loony bin. I shouldn't call them loony bins. The PC title's too long. Anyway, so that was where Shaz began, and I always talked to Tony about it, even from Muriel's wedding. So when I sat down to write Shaz, or to commit the real Shaz, pardon the pun, to paper, I thought of Tony's voice. And Tony I knew would really get Shaz because Tony's a Westie. You know, she brought up in the western suburbs of Sydney. So, you know, because Tony's got that, she knows those women, you know, rough as guts, you know, seen it all. I'll sort you out.
God, I'm bad. Who are you?
Coral?
Oh, I like to see. The Coral Sea. And I'm Shaz, just Shaz.
Just Shaz.
What up?
Ripper!
What are you doing here?
I'm here to fulfill my destiny.
I live with mental illness. I may as well be straight up with you. And you know, I mean, my family pitches in the big leagues. My sister has schizophrenia. My brother is bipolar. I have 2 autistic children. It's a subject that I think if it's a subject that's very important to me, but I think it's a lie to treat it bleakly. I mean, there's no one funnier on the face of this planet than my schizophrenic sister. And I don't mean when she's off her meds and talking to Ronald Reagan. I mean, she's got a sense of humour, she's hilarious, and she copes with her life with humour. And we cope with her coping with her life with humour. I mean, anybody who has special needs or mentally challenged person in their lives or themselves have you know, issues with depression or whatever, know that a good laugh, you know, is sometimes better than a pill, you know, preferably both together.
Dad, we were thinking, while Mum's away, maybe we should be seeing somebody. You know, like a psychiatrist?
What?
Someone to talk to about our problems.
What?
So we don't end up in Wollongong.
What?
Dad, I'm autistic. You can't Dad, I'm a sociopath. I don't feel anything.
Michelle, his voices don't you, Michelle?
What? Tell Dad you hear voices. Wait.
I hear voices.
Am I just looking your way?
She did it 3 times.
There are no psychiatrists in Dolphin Heads anywhere but the loony bin. And the only person in this family going to the loony bin is your mother. This wouldn't be happening to me if I had a family of boys.
Boys have breakdowns, Dad.
Not Australian boys. They're too busy playing football. Now, I've got an election to run, and I don't care if you 5 lumps eat me out of house and home and spend every cent I make. No one is going mental. Not before I do.